Good morning to everyone, and for the sake of the video, for the sake of the people who are going to see this later, today is Sabbath, June 21st, 2025. Israel launched a preemptive attack on the military assets, the government officials, the facilities of the nuclear weapons development program in Iran on the evening of June 12th. The Israeli offensive continues at this very moment. And although many targets in Iran were destroyed, like the heads of the military units, Iran's nuclear program, many top scientists were targeted and killed, and dozens of facilities relating to the nuclear program were destroyed. Further, the reactor Iran was constructing at ACAC to produce plutonium was also destroyed. And the purpose of this sermonette is not to compete with the mainstream media, the news sources that you may be watching and that I watch, but to walk through how we got to this point in world history and how the nation of Israel relates to the nation of Iran. Iran is one of the oldest nations in human history. It is first seen in Genesis. Elam is one of the sons of Shem, and he lived in the vicinity of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Later, these people came to be called Persians and are first mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Then we see them in their association with the Medes in the Medo-Persian Empire, first mentioned in Daniel 2:32. In Scripture, Israel has had many interactions, shall I say, with Persia, some of them not pleasant. The entire book of Esther takes place in Persia. Over the centuries, Persia has had several different religions as part of their culture, but Islamization of Persia began around 623 AD, and today 90% of Iranians are Shia Muslim. All through its history, the people we now call Iran have had twists and turns in their national history. For the purpose of the task today, I want to pick up in 1901, just less than 200 years ago, and step forward to answer my topic of how we got here. The title of the sermon is Iran, How Did We Get to This Point? In 1901, a British man who was actually an entrepreneur named William Darcy negotiated the oil concession with the ruler of Persia. Just as he ran out of money, actually almost after he ran out of money, his people in the field found a major resource. And I guess to say that this resource in Iran was major is an understatement. It was huge. In 1909, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, APOC, was formed. In 1913, a large refinery was built, and for 50 years, it was the largest refinery in the world. The British government purchased 51% of APOC in 1914. Coincidentally, Winston Churchill became Lord of the Admiralty in England, and he became Lord of the Admiralty in 1911, and wanted to switch powering British ships from coal to oil. He negotiated a supply contract with APOC, and that contractual agreement lasted 20 years. Because of that, the British government became a major but relatively hidden power behind APOC. It was at that point I want to bring to your attention that Britain was heavily involved in Iranian oil. And the second point is that in 1925, there was a coup in Persia, and the leader, Reza Shah, rose. Now, you may hear the word Shah often because it actually in Persian means sovereign. He pushed for modernization and promoted secular education. He asked everyone to call the country Iran. So that's when the name was gradually changed. In 1941, during World War II, as you can imagine, both Britain and Germany were consuming oil at a prodigious rate to fund their war effort. Britain became concerned that the Germans would either seize or destroy the refinery in Iran. That could jeopardize the supply of oil to power the British war effort. And because Iran had allowed Germans to stay in the country and would not eject them, Britain and the Soviet Union conducted a joint invasion of Iran to control the territory in August of 1941. The Russians then occupied the northern part of Iran, and Britain occupied the southern part. Reza Shah abdicated and was replaced by Reza Pahlavi. Now, you may hear people in the West pronounce it Pahlavi, but I heard it himself say, and his name was Pahlavi. Again, that is in 1941. At the end of World War II, the foreign forces left Iran. And in 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Moghadeh nationalized the oil company in Iran. Because the Iranians kicked out foreign oil workers, and I guess because then they got cut off in capital and market access, production and revenue of this oil company plummeted, and the nation suffered greatly. Recall that the British government was the silent partner in the oil company and depended on it for fuel for the British Navy. Access to oil with the post-war economy was becoming increasingly important. The British government sought to solve this problem by fomenting a coup to overthrow Mossadegh. The British intelligence arm, MI5, contacted the CIA, and they both decided to organize a coup in 1953. And the coup was successful. And this brought Reza Pahlavi to complete power. And that was 72 years ago. So that's kind of an important number of years for us. In 1963, Pahlavi started an effort to modernize the country even further. And he wanted very much to have Iran be as modern as any Western country. The Iranian government was receiving revenue from oil sales, but because the economy did not produce much of value otherwise, except possibly agricultural products, the average Iranian did not have a very high standard of living. Pahlavi's regime was rife with corruption. In 1978, scores of people were shot by the government in attempts to suppress the growing public protests. Pahlavi also authorized a secret police force called the Sevak to deal with people who protested his policies, and it was not pleasant. In 1979, a student protest opened the possibility that political change could come through the Islamic clerics. This is when Ayatollah Khomeini was elected supreme leader, and his government structured to be controlled by Islamic clerics with the civil powers reporting to them. Now, Shia Islam holds that when Muhammad died, there was a line of 12 imams who became his spiritual and political successors, because Islam is both a political and a spiritual system. The last of the 12 imams is al-Mahdi. He is believed to have gone into hiding and awaits the proper conditions to reveal himself. He will return by coming out of a well from the town of Qum, and for you English speakers, that's spelled Qom. And he will only do so when the world has reached maximum chaos, and thus people who are Twelvers, who believe in the 12 imams, believe it is their duty to bring about maximum chaos in the world so al-Mahdi can finally rise from his hiding place in Qom and bring peace to the world under Islam. Now, I have seen several quotes in my research. The current religious leaders of Iran also say that al-Mahdi cannot emerge from hiding until the last drop of Jewish blood has been spilled, which is a very chilling belief. This is the backdrop of the current situation. In 1979, Iranians revolted against their leader, who had been installed by a coup fomented by Britain and the U.S. This leader became hated. The religious government that came to power as a result used the resources of the country to finance proxies who directly threatened Israel in the south, in Gaza, and in the north border from Lebanon. They also financed the Houthi revolt in Lebanon and other terrorist groups. Further, Iran set off to create a missile force of thousands of missiles that could attack Israel, and they started to enrich uranium with the goal of building an unknown number of nuclear bombs. Iran built underground missile bases so strong to launch missiles, for storing and launching missiles. Some were under mountains, which make them nearly impossible to destroy. Their goal was to be able to fire so many missiles so quickly that Israel could not defend themselves under any circumstances. As for nuclear weapons, Israel could be destroyed as a nation using only very few of them, possibly as few as 3. In this way, the requirements for the return of al-Mahdi would be satisfied: maximum chaos in the world and the last drop of Jewish blood shed. As of this moment, nobody can recall a war against that Israel as fighting that is such a magnitude, such a large enemy of Iran, where the enemy forces have been degraded in such short a period of time. There is only one powerful reason why Israel has survived and prevailed. Last Thursday, which is the 19th of June, corresponds in the Jewish calendar to Sivan 23. In the book of Esther, Sivan 23 is the day when Mordecai and Esther sent out letters to all provinces allowing the Jews to use deadly force in self-defense in an attempt against attempts to murder them. Now, why this might be just random chance or a surprising coincidence, maybe it is a sobering hint that this conflict is far more a battle between spiritual forces than it is a battle between human forces. In closing, I'd like to draw your attention to the book of Daniel, chapter 12. In verse 1 of chapter 12, Daniel records his interaction with the angel Michael that is important for the people of God for 2 reasons. The first reason is to provide more information about the resurrection. And the second is to tell us that the highest of angels was assigned to watch over the people of God, and by extensions, the nations of the tribes of Israel. For in Daniel 12, verse 1, it says, "At that time Michael, the great prince who watches over your people, will arise, and there will be a time of distress unlike other from the nations beginning up until that time. And at that time your own people, all of whose names are found written in the book of life, will escape." And there's the next few verses are also very encouraging on that topic. But my main point in quoting that was to say that Michael, the great prince, watches over your people. The great angel Michael is watching over the earthly nation of Israel at this very moment. All the nations of the world are under control of the princes, the spiritual powers that are in league with the prince of darkness. Clearly, there is a continued strife and power struggles between these 2 forces. Now, in Daniel chapter 10, verse 13, it says, "However, the prince of the kingdom of Persia was opposing me for 21 days. But Michael, one of the leading princes, came to help me because I was left there with the kings of Persia." So by this, we take this to indicate that the prince of Persia was one of the demonic forces. And is it an accident that God has used modern-day Ephraim and Manasseh in the form of the United States and Britain to set the conditions between Israel and modern-day Persia? And there is a great plan afoot, I think, this tells us. It is clear from the record of success that Israel is already seen in this war that shows that the forces aligned with Israel have a great spiritual advantage. A missile directed at the Sokala Medical Center hit a wing that was unoccupied. The unoccupied wing had been vacated the day prior. A missile headed for an area of densely packed apartment buildings in Tel Aviv happened to fall in the only open space in a big distance, which was a parking lot. Nobody was killed. Now, I have looked up the issue of drone attacks, and one source indicated that there have been about 500 drones launched by Iran. Another source said 1,000. But the source that was more credible indicated that about 95% of the drones have been shot down. In reality, for the scope of the war effort, with the thousands of missiles that Iran has built, there really are very few casualties as a result. Despite the fact that 200 airplanes were used by Israel to attack Iran on the first opening salvo, and dozens are bombing it all the time, not a single one has been shot down. If God will do this for a physical nation, he will do this even more so for his spiritual nation. The miracles are hard to ignore. Now, I was meditating on this quite a bit, and it's interesting because if you go back through the wars of the history of the wars of Israel, the present nation of Israel, every time there was a large war, the number of miracles that you get accounts for are just stunning. And these are stunning miracles, but do they account for anything? No, they're all forgotten. All the opponents of Israel didn't even care about these miracles. They have really no effect on them. They might as well not have happened, except, of course, Israel was blessed. We are in the last days, and the God of this world will have great wrath on the people of God, including his nation. And this is what a great wrath looks like. We look forward to the day when humanity can live in peace and safety and can enjoy the same benefits and miracles that blessed the lives of Israel, blesses the whole of humanity. You know, our prayer is that God will bless and protect his people. I would say, come Lord Jesus, please, and soon.